Okay, I'm going to do the remaining examples a little bit more quickly now. And if I'm going too fast, you can play around with the playback settings of YouTube. You can control the speed at which this video is played. You can slow it down if you wish, or you can speed it up if I'm going too slow, actually. So you have some element of control there. All right, so what are we doing here? We are solving for x. So this is our variable, right? This is what we need to isolate. This is what we need to isolate. And so what we're going to do is we're going to first get rid of the constant that's on the same side of that variable. So here I have a 6 that's on the same side as my variable, so I'm going to get rid of it. 6 minus 6 is 0. There we go. That's a pretty straightforward first step. What I can see here is that all that's left on my left-hand side is 2x. But remember, whatever action you take on one side of an equation, you have to do or apply on the other side of the equation as well. So I'm going to subtract 6 from the right-hand side, just like I subtracted it from the left-hand side. 12 minus 6 is 6. Now here I have 2 times x equals 6. I want to, again, isolate that variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that multiplication by 2. How do I get rid of a multiplication by 2? I divide by 2. But remember, whatever action you perform on one side of an equation, you have to perform that same action on the other side of the equation as well. That keeps the equations balanced. This is all part of the fundamentals of algebra, really. So I just have x on my left-hand side. The 2 divided by 2 just canceled out to 1. You could say 1x, but it's really just simpler to write x. So we'll just write x. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that is our solution, right? Our variable has been isolated. It is alone or isolated on one side. And we have one possible value for that variable, and that's our solution. All right, let's jump to the next example. This looks very, very similar. I'm going to skip it. Here, well, I'll do it really quickly, actually. Minus 6, and then I just have negative 2x. Remember, you take the sign in front of the whole term with the term itself. So it's a negative 2x that I have that I carry down, not just a 2x. And then 12 minus 6 is 6, and then divide both sides by negative 2 to get rid of the coefficient in front of the x. And then I just have x equals negative 3. So a similar solution, just negative rather than positive. Now this is going to be a more fruitful example because we're dealing with something that looks like a fraction here. Here I have negative 3 equals 1 minus a over 5. A is our variable, and again, that's what we want to isolate. How do we isolate our variable? Well, first, what we have to do is we have to get rid of the constant that's on the same side as the variable. So let's get rid of this positive 1. We get rid of a positive 1 by subtracting 1. Now we can simplify by rewriting our statement after our algebraic maneuvers. So negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. I'll write that in blue. Negative 3 minus 1, I'll rewrite my statement in blue. Negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. And what's left on my right-hand side? Well, 1 minus 1 is 0, and I'm just left with negative a over 5. Remember to keep that negative sign in front of the term with the term itself when you carry it down to the next line. Now, here I have negative a over 5. Again, I want to isolate this variable, so I have to get rid of what's happening to it. What's happening to it? Well, it's being divided by 5. How do we undo division? Well, we undo division by doing the opposite. We multiply. So let's take this whole term and let's multiply it by 5. It might be more clear why a multiplication by 5 will help us out here, because I could write this as a fraction. And when I write this out as a fraction, I might be able to see more clearly that I have a 5 on the numerator, I have a 5 on the denominator, and these factors will cancel. They will cross-reduce or divide out to 1. I'm going to do one additional thing here, though, because I notice that there's a negative sign in front of my a term here, And I want to get rid of that negative, and I can do that in one elegant step just by multiplying by -5 instead of +5. If I multiply by -5 instead of +5, well, these two negatives will cancel, and then all I'm left with on my right-hand side is a. Well, I can now simplify my left-hand side by performing that same operation, that same action. What action did I perform on my right-hand side? I multiplied by 5, but not just 5 actually, -5. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite my statement. After all is said and done here, I have -5 times -4, that's +20. And then what's left on my right-hand side? Well, this is all that's left. And here I have my solution. A is equal to 20. If you write this whole equation, up top here, if you write this whole equation, but instead of writing A, you write 20, the whole equation will be true.